I want to explain a little bit about why I picked this topic. This past spring, I got a notice that there was going to be a birthday party for my aunt in June. She turned 100. And it was June 21st was her birthday. She was my father's sister. And I talked to her 2 years ago on the phone, and she said, Dee, I'm buying myself another car. I said, you are?
Are you even driving?
Yeah, and she said, well, yeah, I have to drive down to get my groceries and go to the post office. So I've got a picture of her sitting in her new car at 98. And she still lives by herself. She turned 100, June 21st. And her sister-in-law, who's 98, was there in a wheelchair. I got to thinking about what it was like when my aunt was born. She was born in 1926. And I got to think, man, 100 years ago, what was going on 100 years ago? And that's what got me into this talk, was so you can blame my aunt for it.
Okay.
Okay. In 1926, the United States celebrated the sesquicentennial, 150th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Carter Woodson broadened public awareness to the impact of Black Americans on our nation's history by starting National Negro History Week in 1926. Later it became Black History Month, celebrated in February. On March 16, 1926, Robert Goddard successfully launched the world's first liquid-fueled rocket. I mean, talk about, wow, you put that thing up in the air, you know. In May 1926, Admiral Richard Byrd and Floyd Bennett made a flight from Spitsbergen, Norway, over the North Pole and back. And this was the first airplane flight over the pole. And on August 6, 1926, Gertrude Ederle became the first woman to swim the English Channel. So all of these were going on in 1926. When my aunt was born. So I got hooked, trying to find out what else went on. So I did find, believe it or not, this is like pages and pages and pages, and I'm not going to read it all to you, but you can look it up on the internet if you want to. This is the year 1926, and some of the things that happened in it. 1926, Babe Ruth, Rudolph Valentino, and Agatha Christie were all in center stage. They were the big deals in 1926. The average cost of a new car was $515. So I want one of those. Average cost of a new home was $6,296. The average earnings, full-time weekly earnings for men, averaged $41.51. And for women, full-time weekly earnings averaged $24.28. Cost of a first-class stamp, 2 cents. Could buy a lot of those today. Consumer products launched during that year include Purina Dog Chow, Old Gold cigarettes, Raisin Bran, and Schick razors. Between 1923 and 1930, about 60% of American households purchased radios. Radios became a central part of American family life, and families often gathered around their radios to listen to news, weather, sports, serial stories, political speeches, and music. I can remember being at my grandmother's house, and she had to stand up tall, and we kids would be finding something to listen to and then stand there and listen on Grandma's radio. until she told us, "You kids get out of here and go do something outside." But we listened to the radio while Grandma was busy. On May 1st, the Ford Motor Company became one of the first companies in America to adopt a 5-day, 40-hour week for workers in its automotive factories. The policy was extended to Ford's office workers the following August. So they kind of set the road for that. October 6th, Babe Ruth became the first Major League Baseball player to hit 3 home runs in a World Series. A.A. Milne published the ever-popular children's book, Winnie the Pooh. The National Broadcasting Company, NBC, went on air with a gala 4-hour radio program that originated from the ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. Kellogg's Raisin Bran, a breakfast cereal that's made from raisins and bran flakes, appeared on grocery shelves for the very first time. The Hormel Company in Austin, Minnesota, marketed the first canned ham. Famous people born in 1926 include Andy Griffith, Elizabeth II, Hugh Hefner, Jerry Lewis, Mel Brooks, and Tony Bennett. 1926 as well, the words car park, deactivate, emerald cut, gladiola, hash browns, jumper cable, karate, little guy, and motor lodge all appeared in print for the very first time. And those now you just, wow, who would think to write it down when they first appeared? And Schick brand of safety razors and personal care products was founded by Jacob Schick in 1926. And I thought it kind of blew my mind that somebody actually tracked all this down to find out what happened in 1926. And so I went from that, and I gave my aunt a list like that of the things that happened the year she was born. So that's where that came from. But then I looked into Orleans County, and a picture that I found, and you can look on the internet where my speeches are, this picture here, was of O'Donnell Brothers lumber trucks in Medina. And Francis and Bertram O'Donnell became partners in a lumber business in Medina around 1920. Shortly thereafter, Francis got the idea of making trucks look like little houses. After all, they were selling lumber to build houses. So why not promote building materials through the means by which lumber was delivered? Each cab looked like a little house, with all the architectural elements, including shingled hip roof, windows, doors, and siding. There were 3 trucks in total, and they looked like little houses. I thought that was really cool.
Is that what your picture is of?
Yeah. It's a little bit dark, but it shows a couple of their trucks.
They were painted yellow and white with red roofs like the buildings at the lumber company.
So they look like they were driving there, what they built.
They keep having delivered from something that looks like a house. I wish that house.
Yeah, I want that house.
It's cute. Now they built those little ones and they live in tiny houses.
Yeah. With the rise of an automobile in the 1920s, roads throughout western New York were slowly improved. Ridge Road was paved for the first time through Gaines in 1926. Yeah, so 100 years ago, we no longer had a dirt road, we had a paved road that went through Childs. And I live in Childs, so I can brag about this. Orleans County, like I said, the first roads paved were up through Fairhaven at the time, which is now Childs. Also in 1926, in the 1920s and up to 1926, electricity came about. And electricity came to Childs in 1926. So we had paved roads, we had electricity.
Where do you think it came from? Out of Rochester or out of Buffalo?
Electricity?
Yeah, was they continuing paving, ridge from Rochester or from Buffalo?
Yeah, I think it went between Rochester and Buffalo because that was the main way to travel from one big city to the other.
Well,
And
one city was more predominant than the other at that time?
Well, yeah, Rochester I think was more altogether than Buffalo was at that time, but there was a lot of economics that flowed between the two, from east to west across New York State. And paving that highway had been there since the Indians traveled, because it was a high place. If you went north, you went down into muckland before you got to the lake. And down south wasn't settled yet, so it was all undergrowth and brush and trees until the canal went through. So Ridge Road was the main access to this area for many, many, many years.
And the canal was about 100 years old at that time, right?
Well, the canal was finished in 1925.
1825.
Excuse
So
me, yes.
100 years.
So it was about 100 years, but then we had two main routes to travel.
What's the
And
other
then the,
one?
yeah, Ridge Road. Yeah. After the canal, the next big venture was the trolley that ran between villages, like Medina to Brockport, and was where the old library was, over here on State Street. That building behind it was the office for the trolley in Albion.
Do you remember the trolley?
No, I wasn't here at that time.
It was not 100 years ago, but it must have lasted
Well,
up until...
you can tell it was here because certain parts of State Street, you can still see the rails. I don't know whether maybe they covered over now.
It ceased to operate in April 1931.
I was going to say it was in the 30s when it stopped.
The 30s?
Yeah.
1931.
Wow.
So there was really a lot of transportation routes around here. You had the ridge, you had the canal, you had the trolley to go back and forth.
Yeah.
New York Central.
Yeah.
Railroad,
Yeah, railroad. Mm-hmm.
1852.
Yeah.
1852.
Yeah. The St. Joseph's School opened January 2nd, 1926, when two sisters officially opened the parish school, admitting 62 pupils. The school taught hundreds of students until finally closing in 1969. Let's see. Also, Calvin Coolidge. Now, we've got a portrait of Calvin Coolidge picture in the local history room. But he did have a connection here, and he gave a speech June 8, 1925, in front of the Norwegian Centennial Celebration at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds in Falcon Heights. Okay, he's speaking in Minnesota. Part of his talk, he's talking about Norwegian immigrants. He says, but it should be explained that while the settlement of 1825 in Orleans County, New York, was the first Norwegian settlement and represented the first organized immigration of Norwegian citizens. So he even mentioned good old Orleans County when he was giving a speech in Minnesota.
Wow.
I thought that was rather impressive
Yeah.
that he mentioned us.
Were they in the northern part of the county?
Yeah, they were in Kendall. They were, in Kendall,
Norway.
down towards the lake. There's still Norway Road.
Yeah.
We grew up there.
Mm-hmm.
Silent Calvin. Must be the silent president that didn't like to talk much?
Yeah, they said he didn't say too much.
He always said no.
Yeah. No, but that's where Norway Road came from, because of the Norwegian settlement down there. Electricity finally reached the hamlet of Childs about 1926. Other parts of the county weren't fully electrified until after World War II. This is they showed a view of Childs when you come up 98 and the 104 crosses it. That was Childs, and that's where the electricity came about. So we got paved roads and electricity all the same time at Childs, same year. In 1926 also, the House of Refuge for Women in Albion opened in 1893. In 1926, administration shifted from the State Board of Charities to the newly created New York State Department of Correction.
Ooh. So that's when they put the prison in?
That's when it was referred to then as a prison rather than like a house of refuge.
And it was for women?
It was for women, yes.
1926.
Mm-hmm.
Still there, right?
Yep. In 1926, the institution formally transferred from the jurisdiction of the State Board of Charities to the New York State Department of Correction. This shift marked the beginning of a more structured penal-style approach rather than the previous social welfare model. So it became a prison for women. The institution was designed for young women ages 15 to 30, convicted of misdemeanors such as petty larceny, prostitution, habitual drunkenness, and waywardness. The sentence length inmates were given indeterminate sentences that often lasted up 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
So behave yourself. The facility utilized a grading system to reward good behavior. Inmates were housed in cottages and were expected to undergo religious instruction, moral training, and domestic education, such as cooking and sewing, to become self-sufficient. So they were, quote, in prison, but they were trained in something that would be beneficial to them when they were out.
So we're doing rehab way back then.
Yes. Yep. The institution later underwent multiple name and mission changes, becoming the Albion State Training School in 1932, and eventually the current Albion Correctional Facility. So there were changes that went along in a lot of things in 1926. Back in 1826, we had a case, and I thought because I'm talking about the Ridge Road, it made me think of it. William Morgan was a big deal in 1826 in all the papers because he was considered an anti-Masonic person. That he found a book for Masons and published what was in it and let out all their secrets. And so he was a man of curiosity. They were after him. And he announced that he was going to publish a book exposing Freemasonry's secrets. He was arrested on trumped-up charges and disappeared soon after and was believed to have been kidnapped and killed by the Masons from western New York.
Wow.
Well, now I'll tell you where Childs comes in. William Morgan disappeared in 1826, presumed to have been kidnapped and murdered by Masons. A series of trials took place in Orleans County involving local men accused of participating in the conspiracy. Elihu Mather, brother of Gaines pioneer James Mather, was accused of driving the carriage carrying Morgan through Orleans County. The exhaustive process of selecting unbiased juries resulted in Judge Farwell's participation in the defense's challenge of Stephen Martin as a potential juror. According to Farwell, Martin had expressed an opinion of guilt, telling him explicitly that the Masonic institution was corrupt, that Morgan was forcibly carried by carriage along Ridge Road, and that Morgan was most certainly in the carriage driven by Mather. The testimony resulted in Judge Addison Gardner setting Martin aside as a juror because he supposedly was involved in it. They never did find out what happened to Morgan.
Never found his body?
Never found. They found a body, October 7th, 1827. A heavily decomposed body washed up on the shores of Lake Ontario, just east of Oak Orchard Creek in the town of Carleton. A local Orleans County inquest convened to determine if the corpse was Morgan. Though initially identified as him, clothing discrepancies and other witness testimonies proved it was actually that of a missing Canadian named Timothy Monroe. So it wasn't Morgan. And anything I can find, they didn't find his body. They can't prove what happened to him. He could have escaped to Canada and nobody heard of him again.
It happens a lot in Orlando. They can't find bodies in Orlando.
Well, around here, they would go down the ridge and they would cross over into Canada.
Say they can't go to the ridge?
They would go the ridge and go towards Lewiston.
Oh.
And then go up into Canada. Because it was a shorter distance from the ridge to Canada than going in a boat across Lake Ontario and over into Canada. So it was easier to go the ridge and over than it was to go the ridge to 98, down 98, across the lake. So yeah, it was an easy route out. Because of the kidnapping route passed through Orleans County, legal proceedings were brought against those involved. The most prominent trial took place at Orleans County Courthouse in Albion. Elihu Mather was indicted for conspiracy to kidnap. The proceedings became nationally famous due to the intense scrutiny in impaneling an unbiased jury. Mather was ultimately acquitted. So they had a big trial here in Orleans County because of that abduction or where he happened to be. And as far as I can see, there was speculation of where he was, but nobody ever proved it was him.
Jimmy Hoffa of back then.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Yeah, the boys must have hit him. Elihu Mather was born in Vermont in 1782. He was a tanner by trade and came to Gaines in 1825 and went into business with his brother James in a tannery and working a farm. In the great animasonic excitement arising from the abduction of William Morgan, Mr. Mather was indicted as an accessory to the crime and tried in Albion and acquitted. The trial occupied 10 days. Mr. Mather continued to reside in Gaines until 1851, when he moved to Coldwater, Michigan, where he died in 1866. So the drama was here in Orleans County over William Morgan.
Did his book ever get published?
There's been,
The Book of Secrets.
not that I know of, I don't think the book was ever published. I don't think the Miss Masons. He threatened to, yeah. That's what got him into big trouble. But no, the Masons wouldn't have let it be published. They would have stopped it dead in its tracks. Because they were the secrets of the society. And you can't put those out in published form.
YouTube back then.
Yeah, no. And the other person that I was impressed with when I was studying the last 100 years was Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth was here in Orleans County. Played baseball in Medina. Made a visit to Medina on October 18, 1920, playing as a ringer for Bing Cleary's Medina Baseball Club against Jimmy Max Harrison's of Lockport. Playing at what is now Veterans Park along with Carl Mays, Fred Holman, and James Hanna, the Medina Club shelled out $2,000 to bring the quartet to Orleans County. Although Ruth was just beginning to establish himself as a major hitter, he fanned on his first at bat for the game against Lockport's Bert Lewis. It was Finn Wallen of Lockport who hit the first ball out of the park. Whalen later recalled, as he rounded first base, that Ruth remarked, "Beat me to it, eh, Red?" Ruth later hit a home run and triple in Medina's 6-2 victory over Lockport. So there's been pictures of him, Babe Ruth, in his uniform and running across the baseball
But
field.
his team didn't win? Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
they did win.
Well, they did win.
Yeah, they did win. They beat Lockport.
Oh.
Yeah. And the other thing, I guess, that impressed me when I was doing research, and I talked about this before, was P.T. Barnum. He was here in Orleans County. And his traveling circus was here, especially in Medina. But it's interesting what you find, even if you just focus on one 10-year period. What was so different then as compared to what we know today.
Like the octopus.
Yeah, the octopus, yeah. Anybody have any questions?
Oh, you're done?
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
done.
got a bunch of them. Okay. Well, I was curious. Let me see. I wrote them down. This is not for today, though.
Oh,
So do you post what your futures are? You know,
what? What I'm
because you
gonna-
have it on the web, and that's good because we looked that up.
Yeah,
We like that.
so you can watch the talks even if you weren't able to attend it here.
But you don't post ahead of time because you kind of
No,
figure it out.
Michael films it when I do it, and then he puts it online.
And the other thing
This
is,
conversation right now will probably be on YouTube.
I didn't hear you. What did you say?
You're gonna be on YouTube.
Turn the camera so you got it on.
Where is the camera? There's no camera, is there?
It's right there.
There's a camera?
Yeah.
It's facing me right
Oh.
there.
Forget about
See, and if Michael just turns it a little bit, you'll be on too.
So the other thing is, let me see, I remember you got me off track.
You watch videos in Orlando.
Pardon me?
You watch your videos.
Well, we don't catch them all,
Oh,
but
there you
once in a while, you know, it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Snowing and blowing here and
Yeah.
burning up there.
Yeah, Michael.
Do you know if Buffalo Bill Cody ever came to Orleans County before?
Yeah, he did.
He did?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, because I know he did travel quite a ways around New York State.
Yeah, he did. He was here in Albion and Medina, I believe.
He did that, please.
Pardon
I
me?
know that's cool.
In the 70s.
Hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you
I know that's before, but when you mentioned P.T. Barnum, my brain just...
Yeah, there were a lot of
continued on.
famous people that came here that's what gets me hooked.
Yeah.
And
When I
Coleman,
find someone that
Coleman also, right? Coleman the
Coleman
way
was
right
here,
back.
yeah.
So, and he built a memorial to his parents, right, on that corner?
Well, yeah, the Pullman Memorial Church was
Wow.
for George
But
Pullman.
what was his thing? He was moving buildings in the way of the Erie Canal. What did he actually do?
Bill?
He was sublet a contract from Charles Daniels to move buildings out of the way when they were widening the canal in the 1850s
Oh.
here.
The second time, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one more, where I find it.
And
Yeah.
there's a guest register from the Orleans Hotel in the county historian's office, and it has the whole group of people for Buffalo Bill's group that came through.
Where did they perform? Could have been the Opera House or something.
They did some performing precursor to the program on the street. They threw cans up in the air and shot at them.
Okay. And doors. Trying to draw the crowd.
It might have been in Boardwell Hall, or maybe in the Village Hall, where they would have had their program.
Yeah.
The other thing is, so you get people that email you questions sometimes? How many people are watching remote here?
No, I haven't gotten any emails. Once in a while I'll
It's
get
too
a
much
call.
work though, isn't it?
They'll ask about something, they'll go, oh, by the way, I saw your talking. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask about Route 98, so, we know about 104, but do we know when Route 98 was paved?
I honestly don't know when it was paved,
20, sometime in the 20s.
In the
But-
1920s, yeah.
but they had a lot to go through because they had all the swamp to pave over, which means they had to build it up to get it stable. Because a lot of people didn't go south. Once they signed for their land in Batavia for the Holland land purchase. They came north to find their land. They didn't go back down because of the swamp. If you go through Elba to Batavia, you know how wet that land is. Well, think of it without a paved highway.
That might have been done in the 30s. When you drive out of Orleans County, headed toward Tello, there's a very slight bend in the road.
Mm-hmm.
And Henry Keeler told me years ago that the reason for that slight bend, when they did some highway work, they followed the route that was there, but originally there was a tree, a big, huge tree. And they avoided that, went just a little bit, 3 feet out of the way, but put a slight bend in the road, avoid the tree.
Yeah.
Path of least resistance.
Yeah. Well, it was, if you didn't travel the ridge, east and west.
And we finally got it repaved. Wow!
Well, it only took us 100 years. What do you want? You want speed or what?
Is that the one that don't have lines on it yet, and no center line? Is that the one?
Whoa! We're after for the world here.
Yeah, but if you're not from here, it's hard to follow after dark. Jeepers Christ.
Well, it'll get, they won't put regular.
Well, I know, it's in the
Give them time. Come back for, how long you gonna be there?
Another question. So
Take care of everyone else.
it makes you think. So when people were buying from Holland, way back then, that was the early 1800s, right? Or a little later. How did they pay for it? They didn't have to pay cash. Somebody come around and collect every month like they used to come. They used to come. Insurance people used to come every week to collect a premium from.
Yeah, well,
They didn't have money, but I wonder how they done that.
early on, I'm sure that you, which we think of today as thousands of dollars had to be paid. It was like $100.
Yeah, but it would be.
But
just
it
like
was a
$1,000.
lot of money at the time for that person to pay.
So they probably had to pay over time,
And
right?
they did pay over time.
How did
And
they
that,
collect?
well,
Like,
that means you'd have to drive your wagon from here down to pay, unless they had people that came up. Once in a while, I'll read that they had someone come up from the Holland land purchase for somebody in particular. And if you heard from your neighbors that person was there, you might run out and catch them.
Catch them
And
from the other way.
give them their $10 or whatever you owed. But there again, you would have had to gone from here down there. And that, it was going south or going north. I've read accounts from women who said, they were going north to see somebody and their wagons got stuck in the muck from trying to go north to Lake Ontario down by Point Breeze or someplace to see somebody.
We got stuff. We contract, I don't know, it was transit. You can't drive through. I forgot where it was at. You can't get anywhere up north. That transit road ends in the mud farm. And you think you can drive through, but you can't get all the way through.
Oh, no.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
where that's at?
Yes, I do.
It's a transit road.
Yeah, I know there's no reason to go down there, there's nothing there.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a lot there. I thought we was getting back to civilization like you like your poles. But it was, I don't know.
No, you end up in the woods, because I did it too. Yeah. My husband and I tried it once years and years ago.
Oh, I can
I
find
ended
out.
up facing a tree, that's as far as you went. Anybody else? Anybody else? Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you.